There we go.
Okay, there you go, April. You can get us started, please.
Well, thank you everyone for attending tonight. We really appreciate it. I'll just do some introductions. My name is April Best-Serreris. I'm the Director of Planning Services at the Township of Lake of Bays. We also have Stephen Dara, our Economic Development, Brian Brown, our CAO. There's also Mayor Glover here today, and I see Councillor LaCroix. Yeah, he's here as well. So thank you everyone for attending, and I'll pass it off to Stephen.
Thank you very much for everybody for joining us this evening. As we know, the CIP is very, very important. I see some names that I think have already completed the survey, but this is your chance to speak. And it's the first of a few that we're going to have along this process in order to chart the course of our township moving forward. And it's your time to voice your ideas and your concerns so we can all move together in one direction into the future. Thank you very much for coming, and I will pass it over to Donna.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. My name is Donna Hind. I'm a partner at the Planning Partnership, and the Planning Partnership is coordinating the work on the Community Improvement Plan in collaboration with John Linton from TCI Management Consultants, who's here on the call as well. We have a presentation that we've put together tonight. We're focusing on Baysville and Dorset. And just look to John with a nod that you're seeing my screen is being shared. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
So I'm going to go through several slides, and then we're going to pause halfway through and get your comments. We've got it divided into Baysville and Dorset. So I'm going to pause after Baysville, have a conversation about what people think are the biggest opportunities for change, and then we'll move on to Dorset, and then we'll get everybody on their way before 8 o'clock. You are welcome to share your comments or questions in the chat box, and Stephen's going to help me monitor that. And when I open it up for questions, you're also welcome to use one of the reaction buttons to raise a hand or turn your camera on and physically wave at the camera, whatever you need to do to share your thoughts. It's a relatively small group at about 18 people, so it should be easy to hear from everyone. So, Community Improvement Plan for Dorset and Baysville. So let me just back up one. So a community improvement plan, it's a planning tool to support strategic community investment priorities. There's two main streams of work in a community improvement plan. Streams of work related to improvements to anything owned by the township, the district, or the province, public sector. So we'll be looking at opportunities to make improvements to roads, highways, streets, trails, public spaces, and providing some direction in that regard. The other mainstream has to do with the private sector, so privately owned properties, and the community improvement plan allows the township to create financial incentive programs to encourage revitalization and redevelopment. So that helps improve existing property and promotes redevelopment. The community improvement plan then in summary enables the township to focus public attention on local priorities. It targets areas in need of repair, rehabilitation, or redevelopment, facilitates and encourages community change in a coordinated manner, and it stimulates investment through incentive-based programs. There's 4 communities that are the focus of the community improvement plan. So it's really important to understand that we're focusing on the settlement areas of Hillside, Dwight, Baysville, and Dorset. This afternoon, we had a similar session where we focused on Hillside and Dwight, and tonight we're focusing on Baysville and Dorset. This afternoon, both sessions are being recorded, and they'll be posted on the township's webpage specific to the community improvement plan. We're doing our work in 3 phases. We're now in the very first phase of the exercise with the first round of engagement. So in this first phase, we're looking at background work, and the township has done a ton of great work that forms the foundation of what we're doing. We're doing our own site visits, and this is our initial engagement, as Stephen said, right from the get-go. The second phase will be drafting some initial concepts. So those will be diagrams and words and illustrations. We'll talk about draft policies, and we'll introduce some incentives. Programs will be another round of engagement. And then the final phase is when we pull together the community improvement plan, the document that is complete with the diagrams, the policies, and the incentive programs. In terms of engagement, as Stephen said, the township really is putting a lot of emphasis on engagement and encouraging people to share their thoughts in a whole host of ways. So start with their dedicated webpage. It's a great webpage that's populated with really terrific information. And Jacob at the township is doing a great job keeping that up to date. The staff in the municipal office has offered to assist anybody that wants to come in and meet in person and share ideas. The first survey is live. Stephen's got a link to that in the chat box. It's open till the end of July. Then we're here tonight. Our first virtual session will follow this with a second online survey when we'll put out some initial ideas that we're developing that we want your reaction to. We'll conclude the survey with a second round of engagement, virtual or in person. We haven't decided yet, and then a third round in September. So lots of ways to share your thoughts. So don't think that because you've missed any one of the opportunities that you're out of the loop. I'm going to ask my colleague John to walk through a bit of a demographic overview of Lake of Bays because it really sets the context for some of the ideas we're going to talk about. So John, over to you.
Thank you, Donna. So just to quickly introduce myself, I'm John Linton with TCI Management Consultants. We do a lot of work with the Planning Partnership and kind of specialize in looking at market assessment and financial parameters and that sort of thing. So very pleased to be part of this team working on this project. Because I'm very familiar with the Dorset area. My uncle had a cottage there on Blue Chalk Lake, which is just off the Paint Lake Road. So I've been going up there ever since I was a wee gaffer. We ended up purchasing the cottage from my uncle a decade or so ago. So it's very much in my blood and I love the area. So very pleased to be part of this. As Donna was saying, we thought it might be useful to sort of seed the discussion with a bit of a context setting overview of the demographics of Lake of Bays of the township. So what we did was to look at the township relative to the district of Muskoka and then relative to the province overall. And there's some interesting things that come out. First of all, as is of course no surprise to anyone here, you have a very high seasonal population. In fact, about 60% nearly of all of your households are cottages or seasonal residents. That compares to Muskoka, also very high, but only 40%. So you're kind of well above Muskoka, the district overall. And of course, the province is only 7%. So you, well over half of your households are seasonal. And a way to kind of think about this is that for every permanent resident household, there is about 1.5 seasonal resident households. So it gives some sense of the proportionality there. Another interesting dimension is that you have a significantly older resident population. I'm thinking here just of your permanent residents, but of those who are 65 years of age or older, you've got about 34%, so over a third, compared to only 12% for the district overall, and about 16% for the province. So you're kind of double or a bit more of the provincial ratio of older residents. And that's also reflected in the median age of the population. The median, of course, being that sort of middle point. So half of the population is above and half of the population below. So you can see in Lake of Bays, the township, your median age is 58 years, fairly old, compared to only 53 for Muskoka, the district, and for only 42 for the province overall. So an older resident population, clearly. Turning to a couple of other things you've
Want me to switch? Sorry. Yeah, there we go.
Right there, thank you.
Yeah.
You have very high population growth on a percentage basis. So the the last census 2021 revealed that in the period from 2016, the previous census, to 2021, that 5-year period, you had almost 19% population growth, compared to about 10% for the district overall, and only about 6% for the province. So triple the population growth rate for the province overall. Obviously, much of this, or some of this, comes from the conversion of cottages, seasonal residents, to permanent, which will add to the permanent base of the population, but also it does reflect some influx of additional people. A way to, again, think about this is that over the 5-year period, you've had about 600 new permanent residents, or 120 per year, or one new resident every 3 days, if you want to think about it that way. So again, very high population growth. You also have slightly higher education levels, with 59% of the population in the township having a post-secondary degree, compared to about 53% for the district overall, and about the same ratio, a little less for the province. This is mirrored by a slightly wealthier population. Your median income, again, that sort of halfway point for recipients of income in the year 2020, which was the year prior to the census being done, was about 44,000 compared to 41,000 per individual for the district and the province overall. So that's about 10% ballpark higher than the province overall, which is a good thing. However, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that there are some pockets of sort of lower income. You've got about 11%, slightly more, of your households being measured according to Stats Canada low income measure, compared to slightly less than that for the province overall, 10%, and about the same for Muskoka. You've got higher home ownership, considerably higher than the province overall, with 91% of your permanent residents owning their own home, compared to only 68% of the province. And higher mobility, so about 44% almost of your households have moved into the township in the last 5 years, compared to somewhat lower mobility rate for the province overall at only about 37% rather. And then finally, again, probably no surprise, you've got lower diversity than the province overall. Only about 2%, a little less than that, of your permanent residents would fall into a visible minority category, according to Stats Canada, compared to about 37% rather, of the province overall. So much lower diversity. So the kind of contextual takeaways from this that we should sort of keep in mind as we go through our discussion. All right, you've got very high population growth, very high seasonal population, significantly older population, but better educated and slightly wealthier, somewhat more mobile than the province overall, and considerably less diverse. So with that, I'll turn it back to Donna.
Okay, thanks, John. So I'm going to go now through just a review of some background documents that applies both to Dorset and to Baysville. Because again, like I said in the beginning, these form really important points of departure for the work that we're doing in the community improvement plan. So the township did a community-based strategic plan back in 2009 that was founded on a really strong vision statement. And you'll see in the vision statements for all of the documents, they make reference to natural heritage features, environment, natural shorelines, healthy forests, wetlands, outstanding opportunity, or outstanding combination of economic opportunity, peaceful living, and recreation. So every time there's an exercise such as this, it's clearly recognized the environment within which we are working. In that strategic plan, the township values healthy, sustainable natural environment, sound economy, quality of life for all. And then there are a number of strategies that form the framework of that work. The township did an economic development strategy in 2017 that they are in the process of considering doing an update to that work that's coming up on 6 years old. It was also based on a really strong vision statement about having a diverse economy, high quality of life, diversity of employment opportunities without compromising the natural environment. So the natural environment is always, always the touchstone. There's 5 themes in that economic development strategy. And within the 5 themes, there's a number of priority actions. So there's business support and development, communications, marketing, and branding. And when I tour around Lake of Bays, I see the implementation of some of these initiatives, not the least of which are the beautiful signs that identify the hamlets. The other 3 themes have to do with community infrastructure, tourism, and then workforce development, retention, and attraction. The township recently completed a parks, open space, and recreation strategy. It was completed in 2023. And I said this many times earlier this afternoon, an outstanding document that really provides a terrific inventory of the assets in the township. So that document was intended to identify the needs for public open space, have an action plan, identify potential locations for new parks, trails, establish acquisition disposition policies, and then to set some minimum standards. We poured through that document, and I've pulled out many of the recommendations from the strategy as, again, a point of departure for conversations in Dorset and Baysville. So I'm going to start with Baysville. So this red outline is the hamlet or the settlement area. You can see Muskoka Road 117 marching through the site. The arena and community center is down here. Lake of Bays Brewery is around where my cursor is. The river, the dam, just to get everybody oriented, the marina. So we're always going to be looking at this area that's outlined in the red box. We look first at the official plan because we want to know how the lands are designated. So as well as understanding existing bricks and mortar and uses on the ground, we want to know, again, like what the land use designations and the policies are. So you'll see a big area identified as core area. And the highway commercial is picked up in the red hatching. The institutional recognizes the arena, the community center. There's environmental protection areas. We also look at the zoning bylaw. So the zoning sets out commercial uses. It identifies tourist commercial uses. It pulls out the environmental protection areas, the institutional. And so you can see where it's picking up the institutional areas. You can see the green space along the river. The township is currently in the process of developing a community planning permit system. It has a zoning component. And so what we're seeing is almost the same, well, it is virtually the same zoning categories, zoning locations, zones, I should call them zones, but the labels have been slightly modified. So then we map out based on our own wanderings around and what we learned from the background studies, where the key parks and open spaces are. So we map them out just so we can understand the pattern and the connection, the relation of all the green spaces in Baysville. And remember that one of the 2 main components of the community improvement plan is to make recommendations for anything green as well as the streets. Then we also map the community facilities and important buildings. And logically, many of those are located in proximity or within the wonderful green spaces. And then we map the key commercial and retail uses, and we can see they're the uses that are marked in red, the restaurants or the brewery or the marina or food services, etc. So they're distributed in that core area. We went through the results of the online survey, and this was a couple of weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago, when at that time there was 40 or 50 people that had responded to the survey. And I understand now it's over 100, in the order of 130 people. So that's fantastic. So this is what I pulled out of the survey from 10 days ago. This is what people were saying, key issues and challenges that were revealed from the online survey, where we asked just two really simple questions. Tell us what the main issues and challenges are, and then tell us what the biggest opportunities for change. So with respect to issues and challenges, need for employment opportunities, need a greater variety of retail and services, need better system of transit. There's a lack of accommodation. There's a need for affordable housing, lack of curb appeal in the village. And remember, these are what people are telling us. This isn't what John or I or staff are gleaning. This is what residents are telling us. Taxes are too high, that there's a resistance to development and change within the community, and that's discouraging new businesses from opening, that the parking requirements and restrictions are a major hurdle to building and rebuilding, that existing buildings need to clean up their lots, and that there's a need for higher speed internet to properly run businesses. We also asked people opportunities for change, and from that same survey 10 days ago, they talked about the biggest opportunity, that Baysville is a gateway to Muskoka. So there should be bigger variety of services and amenities. So there you go. Again, more commercial activity, making sure that we're protecting the environment, various road infrastructure and maintenance repairs, to increase tourism, to increase the access to health services, to have more garbage bins and beautify streets, and actively encourage programming and businesses to become bigger, and then to support businesses like the Lake of Bays Brewery that was wanting to do an expansion. We also reached out, I did, and over the last several months, spoke to staff at the township, spoke to councillors and the mayor, spoke to some residents, and I went through my pages and pages of notes and summarized some of the things that I was hearing from those conversations. And so I heard many people talk to me about Baysville having water and sewer and the opportunity for affordable housing, rental housing in particular, but mentioning that they thought that the current planning and zoning regime was restricting that development. When I looked through all my notes, I clumped what I was hearing according to some categories. So with respect to access, there was lack of parking was restricting development, that people are afraid to walk on the district road, that there needs to be better signage because there's conflict with boaters and people swimming and walking and using the dock, that there needs to be better accessibility along the waterfront. With respect to landscape, I heard lots of people tell me about how much the volunteers do with respect to planting flowers and putting up banners and doing seasonal decorations and watering, all with not a lot of support from the township or the district. People had ideas about using urban areas for urban gardens, bee production, local food production. Generally, people said the area needs to be cleaned up. These are all the kinds of things that are absolutely in the purview of a community improvement plan. With respect to the waterfront, people made reference to what's going on in Gravenhurst and talked about maybe some precedents that might be applicable to Baysville. People said that the park sits empty, again, not my words, that the band shell can't be used to its fullest extent because of issues with insurance. That the East Dock area could be more active, the pavilion needs to be repaired, and generally need to improve the area. Arts and culture, suggestions for murals on buildings to create an arts and culture focus, that the washrooms aren't properly signed, that generally just need better signage to tell people how to get to things. The facilities, the arena doesn't get used as much in the summer. We hear that a lot in many communities, that it needs to be improved. Specific suggestions with respect to some of the parks in Baysville. And then information that a builder is looking to build some houses in Baysville. And again, the comment was about it isn't as easy as everyone had hoped it might be. So I went through the Parks and Open Space strategy, and they made some really interesting insights and observations on some of the public spaces in Baysville. I'm going to go through those quickly. So I'm going to start with the dam. They make some observations that it's obviously a feature park, which it is. They said that the parking lot was flooded in the winter as a skating loop, and it was very well received by residents, and it was operationally in an ideal location. They were suggesting that that be continued. And it said that there are opportunity to increase seating, to improve the gazebo, to improve the docks and the stairs so that it supports more and safer use. Let me just make sure I'm skipping slides. Park, the community center park. That it's a really important site, a park in the town, which everybody knows it is, but it could become even more important with a little bit more investment. The gardens managed by the library, the recreation study suggested that continue, that the Lions Club has expressed interest in contributing to a shade structure to support programming in and around the playground, and that through a bit of investment, such as adding a pavilion, more picnic tables, benches around the playground, and maybe a splash pad, it could become an even bigger focus for the town. The community center, they lay out the features of the building. They make some observations about the use of the ice pad. Over time, arenas in the larger communities in the area have attracted the greatest share of the market for ice use. So it's not seeing the demand that it once did. During the non-ice season, the pad is used for pickleball, ball hockey, and lacrosse. The workout room is generally well used, and the main hall is used for events. They made some comments that with respect to trends in the larger market and those that are eroding its role as a focus of community recreation, that it really needs a really careful look. And we're going to have a kind of cursory look at it through this community improvement plan, but I imagine it will also be looked at if there's an update in the community development strategy. Sorry. Then that study talked about a coordinated marketing initiative for the community center. So they talked about focusing on smaller organizations that require ice time. They talked about focusing on a segment of users within the larger arena market to make the Lake of Bays Arena their home, to promote the commercial kitchen for rentals, to continue to market the hall for social events and developing programs that can be accommodated in that space. We know that the township has set aside about $500,000 in the capital budget for 2023 and 2024 to maintain the center, and that the previous strategy in 2023 also mentioned upgrades that included to the air conditioning, additional office space, and food service options. This diagram just has some really early thoughts about how to organize some ideas for Baysville. And I want to leave this on the screen and open it up now to questions and comments and ideas with respect to Baysville in particular. So what this diagram is showing is we're highlighting those green spaces that we walked through. And it's saying obviously that we're building on the work from the strategy. So enhancing those green spaces, enhancing signage and wayfinding, thinking about a distribution of public amenities, which means washrooms, looking at enhanced streetscape and sidewalk and pedestrian safety on the district road and the local streets, and then looking at the nodes of commercial development in Baysville, what the incentives for business could be, guidelines for new development, and then drilling down into those planning regulations and zoning that are getting in the way of promoting redevelopment and expansion. So I'm happy to take comments. We're just at 20 people, so it's a great size and easy to hear anybody who has anything to talk about in Baysville. And I know there's like 20 people on the call with lots of thoughts.
I'll put my hand up.
Go ahead, Ed.
It's Ed.
Yep, go ahead.
It's Ed Mathney. I'm a resident on Real Lake, and I'm president of the curling club.
Okay.
First of all, an excellent presentation. Well done. A couple points I want to make.
Yeah.
The Parks, Recreation, and Open Space.
Yep.
Excellent document, but it felt like we had to fight to get our name in there. They did a great job on municipal assets.
Yep.
But they did not really engage private assets outside of that. So, the document, while it was very well done and it did exclude or did not emphasize enough of other assets besides municipal assets. So,
And so
Which
what are some of those, Ed, that we should?
well,
be-
the curling club was a private
Yeah,
asset.
the curling, other ones that we should know about, or?
Actually, maybe we're the only one. Yeah, actually don't know. That's a great point.
And so what
But-
what do we need to know about the curling club?
Well, we sent a lot of information in, so
Okay,
that information is available now. So
okay,
That's
perfect.
my
Okay.
only point there. And then the second is with business expansion.
Yeah,
For most of the people in Baysville, very much feel like the Lake of Bays Brewery is the heart of the town.
yeah,
And they would like to expand the
Yeah.
patio. And it was a real feeling that there was just simply a total lack of creativity and flexibility on the planning department side to find a way or a solution so that they could expand.
okay,
And they just kind of, oh, well, we got this official plan and we're going to hide behind it. That to me was a real disappointment because I came up here, I moved up here, invested a lot of money, and I was expecting that the town would grow.
yeah,
And to see the township really not have a open mind to expansion and kind of hide behind stuff like the official plan, it really upset me. It really bothered me.
Yeah.
It bothered a lot of my colleagues, and we feel that the heart of the town is really built around
the brewery. Yeah, well,
Mhm.
fair enough. But you can see that in the economic development strategy and the community development strategy, the township always recognizes the importance of identifying those economic development opportunities and expanding those economic development opportunities. So I know they're 100% behind the notion of creating an environment for business. So we're
well,
going to,
I get a pushback because we did not see that.
well, we're going to
Not
over the
see
next,
that.
we're going to over the next little while drill into some of those policies and zoning regulations that are getting in the way. And I know staff are completely on side with us, so we're going to work together to figure out how we can promote development, not how we can facilitate development and not frustrate development. So
Well, I
Stay
certainly hope
tuned,
so
and,
because that the impression was very much that the staff was frustrating.
Okay.
development.
Yeah.
okay, well, fair enough, fair enough.
Donna,
Okay,
can I
thanks,
just
Ed.
make a
Yeah,
quick
go
point on
ahead,
the
John.
brewery?
Yeah, go ahead,
Because I
John.
think it's a very significant thing. In addition to the economic opportunity, there is a real opportunity in terms of branding the overall community. And when you look at what the Creemore Brewery did to the little village of Creemore and the
Yeah.
larger township of Clearview,
Yeah.
it shows the potential. And certainly Lake of Bays Brewery has a very wide audience. A lot of people
Yeah.
are aware of Lake of Bays only because of the brewery. So I think it's
Yes.
a very important and strategic thing to think about.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, really good point. Thanks, Ed. I'm going to go to Anne. Anna, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, Anna.
Great, thanks very much. Just so you know, I live on Dickey Lake. I'm a
Okay.
co-president of the Dickey Lake Association. I'm on the board of the curling club with Ed, and I'm
Okay.
also on the board of the hospital
Okay,
in the area. And so I don't speak on behalf of any of those organizations, but certainly it gives my context for my personal remarks. So
Okay.
just want to thank you for summarizing the survey, and pleased that 140 people have contributed, because I think it hits the key points around parking, affordable housing, and the economic development. The
Okay.
two things that came to mind when you did the presentation that I didn't see that came to light for me is I think there's an opportunity with our active transportation that's done through the
Yes.
District of Muskoka to
Yeah.
potentially access some money and funds
Yeah.
where we could create some of this vision. And, you know, I don't want to try to be specific because I think that's staff's role. But, you know, when I think of Muskoka Road 51, which is in very bad shape and has had some good repairs recently, but is there a way to allow people to come in from Rail Lake, Echo Lake, Dickey Lake into the urban centers to take advantage of that through, you know, the marina? And it's already a snowmobile trail for some of it. People try to cycle and we try to walk, and it's not as safe as it used to be. And certainly I appreciate there's strain on funds, but the active transportation money at the district may be an option for that.
Great point. Yes, great point.
And just a second thought I had when I looked at your map that's on the screen is we don't highlight the park on the other side of the river in Baysville, which used to be a highlight for people because we used to be able to walk across the dam, and people would come in from both sides of the town, and that would create flow and people would come and enjoy the river. And
So
I know
in here, you mean where my cursor is in here?
just below the dam, there's a beautiful park. Now I don't know if it's deemed to be in the urban boundary or whatever the correct terminology, but there is a municipal park right there that I draw to your attention and might be an opportunity. The other thing I'd ask you to think about is M&R closed the access to the dam many years ago, and people couldn't walk on it. But Port Sydney put up a big fight and said to M&R, no, this is part of our town. This is part of our economic development. Meanwhile, ours had already been gated. So I still keep wondering if that was a missed opportunity and whether we could go back to M&R and say, you approved it for Port Sydney. Is there an opportunity for us to open that up and then connect those parks? So those were just two thoughts I had when I see that. And just, I don't know if you're going to have an opportunity. So just while I'm talking, I'm pleased about the outreach you guys are doing. I think this format is missing a lot of people in our community. Zoom is not a comfortable feature for a lot of our community members. And I think the timing and being online is missed. So I'm glad to see you have other touch points, and I'd really encourage those to be in public sessions.
Okay. Yep. Fair enough. And, you know, frankly, we did have a debate about, I'm just going to mark this on here. We did have a discussion with our staff team about whether this would be in person or virtual. So I completely hear you. I am dying to get back in person at our public events. So we'll definitely, and I know staff's on the call, so we'll think about that for sure for our August sessions. Thanks, Anna. Did you want to weigh in on any of that, John? The dam opening or the?
No, I
we're
think
good. Okay.
I think I'm good. I see Bruce has his hand
Bruce,
up.
go ahead, Bruce.
Hi there, and thank you, Donna. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate all the work and the presentation that you and John have done today. Councillor Bob, Mayor Terry, thank you for facilitating all this work. My wife and I did fill out the survey.
Great.
And I like the direction that this is going in terms of the public infrastructure enhancements such as sidewalks. We like to go into Baysville sometimes to go for walks. And as you know, along 117, you're walking on sloped gravel, you're dodging cars, you're dodging other obstructions, and just to have sidewalks in the village along that road would greatly enhance the enjoyment of the area. So great on the enhancing public infrastructure. I really support that.
Okay.
The area that we had raised before, and I want to raise again tonight, is around affordable housing.
Okay.
I do not meet any vendor or business owner in the community who doesn't talk about the shortage of staff and the lack of employees. And we need more housing that families can afford. working families and affordable housing. And I think a model that could be quite appealing is the Habitat for Humanity one, which, you know, includes the partnership between the municipality, the community, and that organization to create affordable housing, initially in a rental format. And then I think there's some options for ownership, but I don't know the details of how that works. I think our community has a lot of generous people in it who would contribute and would donate to the portion required by the community support. We have seen donations to local hospitals, to whenever if the library has a fundraising program, the community is always very generous. And I think the time has come when we need to have a push around affordable housing and engage the community in that. And if the municipality, if the township has some land it could contribute, then that's like just perfect. You've got some land, you've got some expertise from Habitat, and you've got a generous community willing to give financially. So I would really encourage that as something to consider as part of this plan. And thank you again for the opportunity to chat.
Great, thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, excellent.
John, weighing in on affordable housing, or other than head nodding as I am.
Bruce has articulated the
Yeah.
issue and perhaps the opportunity very well. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let me just go on.
Oh, Donna,
There we go, Anna. Go ahead, Anna. Yeah. Go ahead, Anna.
Anna, you're on. You're muted.
You're on.
She may have to unmute yourself.
There you go.
That's me. My husband's trying to weigh in on the other. He's just unmuted.
Here I am. There was a bit of an operator error.
Okay. There you go.
So my name's Fred Landry. I'm Anna's husband. I was involved in the strategic plan back in 2007, I guess it is.
Yep.
And a couple of the things that working closely with the mayor at the time, a couple of things we identified, and it is in the strategic plan, and I hate to say that I don't think we've made much progress on it in the 16 years, is affordable high-speed internet. And one of the opportunities that I think we have in Lake of Bays as a whole, but Baysville specifically, is I think if we had internet infrastructure, I think we could have emerging technology industry brought into this area. And my case in point back in 2007 was the building of tech companies in Lake Tahoe. Because I was a tech executive, and my corporate office was in San Francisco, and a lot of my staff worked out of Tahoe. And so we have a very close relationship between, Toronto and Lake of Bays, not too dissimilar to San Francisco and Tahoe. And so I here are a number of years later, and we haven't got the progress that I think we should have been able to have. And I'm not throwing shade on council and staff, because I've worked, I've certainly spoken with many of them over the years, and they've worked very hard to bring internet. But I think it's a very big missed opportunity for us.
Okay.
The other thing that, and you've identified it, but another big missed opportunity that we have in Baysville, and I don't have an answer, is a hotel, motel, some kind of housing. Bruce already covered the affordable housing side, and I thought that was well done. But some kind of lodging. I think our arena could be would have a higher utilization, certainly in the wintertime, if we had
Some kind
some
of modest
accommodation.
accommodation. Yeah,
And
yeah.
for many who know, we have Ironman, coming up on Sunday, and we have the Tri-Muskokan that happened 2 weeks ago, and we have an active cycling group within the township of Lake of Bays. And I think if there was housing, you could see that Lake of Bays could become a cycling mecca.
Mhm.
I know
So-
some of our vehicle drivers wouldn't necessarily like that, but so I was an active cyclist, and knowing in the Carolinas, it's a destination of cycling, particularly in the early spring, where people, Ontario folk go down to the Carolinas to ride and take a lot of
Right.
tourism.
So when
dollars.
when you talk about housing, though, Fred, you're talking about accommodation, tourist visitor accommodation, not affordable housing.
Yep.
When you're talking about it with respect to cycling and attracting people in for events, correct?
Yes.
Tourist accommodation, right? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And so where is in this area would people go? I guess you'd go to Huntsville. That would
Or
be the
Baysville.
closest place.
Or Bracebridge.
Bracebridge,
Bracebridge, yeah.
Huntsville or Bracebridge.
It's-
Okay.
it's
Yes.
Ed again, sorry, I'd like to support
Yeah.
Fred's point about hotel accommodations or something.
Yeah,
It's only a few weekends a year that we need it, but the curling club is trying to hold more bonds,
Right.
invitational bonspiels.
right,
Mhm.
right.
And it's very difficult to say, well, you gotta stay 30 minutes away
Right.
to the teams coming into
To
the
be
area.
Closer.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
so that,
the other
that's-
thing, I also think cycling, but I also think there's a huge snowmobile or
Yeah.
population that would appreciate having
So that-
accommodation in the area.
that's where we'll get John over the coming months as we get ready for our next round of engagement to help us figure out what you would need to be able to attract an investor.
Yeah, and I think some of the opportunities that we have in Baysville for lodging, we've got the Baysville Walkabout in July, and we've got Art in the Park in August. And
Yep.
if there was more opportunity for tourists to stay in our area as opposed to Bracebridge or Huntsville,
Right.
I think that a lot more tourist dollars would stay in the Lake of Bays
Yes.
community
Yeah,
than
for sure.
in the Huntsville, Bracebridge
For
type
sure.
areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Fred. Okay. I'll go to Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I want to just echo all the excitement about all of the information that's come together.
Yeah.
And the descriptions. So thank you for all that. But a couple of thoughts
Yep.
that come to mind. One of them is, I think it's been mentioned already by you, is that the on one hand, Baysville ought to be a gateway to the Muskokas, but you wouldn't know it to drive through it. So how does
How do we look at
Baysville
that?
develop a civic identity, a visual identity,
Yeah.
a cultural identity? So some of that can be established in the way we think, not just about what gets built, but how it gets built and what it looks like.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and perhaps right at the bridge, there's an opportunity for, say, an art installation, something that's a little bit larger than life, something
Yeah.
that says we are a cultural destination.
Mhm, mhm.
And how can you be a cultural destination if there isn't a cultural icon?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I am a big supporter of public art, outdoor public art. So that's a very interesting idea.
Just to build on Anna's comments and also Fred's comments, that the whole region benefits from cycling, but there's evidently the infrastructure is a little bit terrifying for cyclists. I watched
Yeah.
a cyclist tear off a bunch of flesh a couple of weeks ago on Highway 117, and so the big question is, what's involved in bringing a couple of levels of government together to
Yeah.
make sure not just that Baysville is a cycling destination, but there is that the whole perimeter of the lake is a cycling destination, like it would be in North Carolina, for instance.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
And certainly we've done lots of work where we've had to work with the district of Muskoka and look at their road cross sections through Port Carling and through Bala and through, so it's
Nice.
not like it hasn't been done before, and we're
Right.
happy to have those conversations again.
I
about
think
how-
related to the idea of making it cyclist friendly or cyclist compelling would be, how do you make, like, you've got this beautiful river running through the town and defining it. Why is it not a marine destination? Why is it so car centric? I think that's an important planning question to be
Yeah.
dealt with and
Although,
unpack.
as I understand it, lots of boats do make it a
Mm-hmm.
destination, Baysville a destination, correct?
Well, I'd be curious to see some kind of census figures on that, because I
Yeah.
see a beautiful facility that is
Yeah.
always barren when I look at it.
Really, the facility down here where my cursor is, okay.
Further south. So
Oh,
if you go towards
in-
the park,
Okay,
where
down in here.
where the
Hmm.
bandshell is and stuff.
Oh, yeah, down here
There's
where there's
a
docks.
beautiful opportunity for
Yeah.
at least, I
Yeah.
don't know, 6, 8, 10 boats to be there at any given
Yeah,
time.
because there are slips, there is an opportunity to tie up.
And
Okay, well, we'll
I've
have
never
another
seen
look at that.
people or heard
Yeah.
people talk about it and say, hey, I'm
Yeah.
going to Baysville on Saturday or Sunday,
Huh.
or any day of the week.
Well, like they do to Dorset. Dorset is
For
such a
sure.
big boating destination, so it's interesting. That's an interesting point. Why Dorset and not here? Huh?
And then
We talked extensively about multi-use trails and biking at the earlier today. Those are all very important areas that we're going to be. So discoverability, multi-use trails, and better leading people to the places where we want them to go so they get the use we want. So that's something that we're going to be working with to
You know,
get better use of.
your point about just to pick up on what you were just last saying about making it a boating destination, and when I just compared it to Dorset, and then this afternoon somebody talked about Dorset with respect to Dwight, and they said people come to Dorset to buy ice cream, groceries, and go
Yeah.
to the LCBO. And so here it's just a bit of a hike to get to the grocery store. I can't remember where the LCBO is, but I think it's in here. So maybe that's
the
something
red
that
circle
is
on your left.
something to think about. That
I
how-
think related to that, though, to build on what you just said, is the path from Bay Street to Bridge Street back to 117.
Yeah,
That is, would it be too much to say culturally barren?
yeah,
There isn't a lot to compel you to get out of your car, get
yeah.
out of your boat, and walk the full length
Wander through, yeah.
and experience something. So is there a way to
Mhm.
make sort of a pedestrian mall, even in the summers? Just even if it's only a seasonal component, it could be an opportunity to create a microeconomy, but it's really about just saying, why aren't Bay Street and Bridge Street cultural destinations for this?
Mm.
Just on that, Donna, before we leave Baysville, can I just ask the group, I think it was the corner of Bay and Bridge that used to be the site of the old Lincoln Lodge, speaking of lodging, which I always thought had the greatest slogan, the best lodge by a dam site. But anyway, just wondering what, since it burned down, are there any opportunities around that very strategic, I think, and significant corner?
Well, there have been opportunities, but they've been shut down by issues with parking.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we are gonna get to the
All
bottom
right.
of that.
Yeah. So Donna, it's Ed again.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna ask a question. I know you're moving on to Dorset.
I am
but-
gonna move. That's fair. You are absolutely right. But go ahead, ask
So
your question.
I want to leave you with one thought.
Okay,
So what is the vision for Baysville? And because I think, quite honestly, and Michael did a nice job of laying it out, the assets that this town has. Why could it not become a mini Port Carling?
okay.
And
Yeah.
but there's and I'm a little concerned with the township structure. There's no focus, there's no group that is actually focusing on a strategy for developing Baysville.
Well,
They-
the community improvement plan is going to in part do that because we're focusing on the 4 settlement areas. But what,
Okay,
what,
this is new.
sorry?
Let's be honest. This is new.
This,
Yeah.
It
okay,
hasn't happened in the past.
okay.
I'm
so-
sorry. I spent too many years in the U.S. I'm a little bit too direct.
So what is, when you say a mini Port Carling, what does that mean? So paint a visual picture for me about what you
Just
see when
drive
you,
through Port Carling.
I know
look at
I've done that a million, I did a
Yeah.
community
Look at
improvement
the
plan in
shop.
Port Carling. So just, but you tell
Yeah.
me what
So-
your vision is
Okay,
for Port,
but look at
when
the
you
shop.
visualize Port Carling, it's what? What
Look
is
at the
it?
shops. Look at the reference.
The
It becomes
shops.
it becomes a destination town. People want to go to Port Carling because there's neat shops, there's neat
Okay.
restaurants. We have so many natural assets.
Yeah.
All the parks we have, the river, the
Yeah.
dam, Yolanda Bay, we have so many assets.
Yeah.
And yet we don't seem to maximize them, leverage them. We could become a really neat, for all the people on Lake of Bays. It's a weekend. We got to go to Baysville, and because it's so cool. The people
Okay.
on Rosso and Muskoka, because of where it's located, we got to head into Port Carling for dinner, or we got to do this and that.
Okay.
And that to me is, there's no strategy, and I think that's
Well,
something
stay
that could be
tuned. You'll help us.
Yeah.
You'll be helping us develop that strategy. So stay tuned.
Tell 20 or 30 friends to make sure that they do the survey, because this is what we're doing, is laying the foundation to develop that strategy to move ourselves forward. So thank you very much. There has been the past, but we're moving into the future.
So
Bruce
I'm gonna-
McClellan said the megabucks around Port Carling do not exist around Baysville. I just wanted to put that on the record.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I missed that, Stephen. What was that?
So there's
Bruce
more
McClellan
money.
noted in the comments. Yeah, he said that there's Brucey, to paraphrase, he said there's more money in around Port Carling than there is around Baysville.
And I would say there's lots of money on Lake of Bay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
true.
think that's true.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
Just
gonna
stating what Bruce said.
push us on to Dorset. So here we are, we're switching geography. So here's the big red arrow. We all know the very unique condition in Dorset where the township of Almaguin Highlands has part of the settlement area, and Lake of Bays has the rest. So we could look again at the official plan. And so this whole area around Robinson's and along the main street is designated as a core area. The zoning picks up those land use designations and zones the commercial areas along the main street for general and service commercial. And then as well, the community planning permit system, I always get those two P's mixed up, is carrying forward the zoning and changing the categories of those various zones. We were directed many times to the waterfront study that was done in 2016, that it is a terrific document. There were 3 options that were presented for the waterfront. The first one extended the dock, restored the Clayton building, proposed multiple pedestrian crossings, and a more formal crosswalk at the south end and a small gateway. There was a second option where they did some diagrams for the second and the third option. Second one built on option 1. It added additional docking. It completed a south circuit. It improved the north circuit with parking and picnicking at the Dorset Parkette. The second option envisioned a prominent pedestrian connection and wayfinding system. And then there was a third option that proposed an additional underpass, an enhanced wayfinding and path along the main street, upgrading to skating rink and shade canopy, and having electric vehicle charging stations. So we did have a quick look at the waterfront plan and the downtown study. We, like the other settlement areas, we mapped the playgrounds and the park and open space facilities, and a really intriguing set of playgrounds in various conditions and settings. We mapped all of the facilities, the playgrounds, the gazebos, boat launches, the outdoor rink is, the picnic area, the fire hall, the recreation center that is in Almaguin Highlands. Sorry for the spelling mistake there. I am just noticing, I look at this 1,000 times. And then shops and services, Robinsons, which everybody gets oriented from that bullseye, the post office, the restaurants, the pharmacy, gas, etc., that are distributed along the main street. Again, we went forward through the results that we looked at 10 days ago from the survey, opportunities for change, enlisting more seasonal residents to help out, putting in more charging stations, making sure that new development adheres to standards and guidelines, which we're going to be developing as part of our work, making sure that we continue to protect the environment, and then looking at enhancements to the community center. When people answered the question about issues and challenges, derelict buildings, disregard of public property, need to help retain businesses, protect the environment, lack of health services. Then, like the other sites too, I went through my notes when I talked to people and they shared ideas specifically about Dorset. I heard absolutely about the asset of the Big Win and the asset that it is for the hamlet, for the whole township, and its role in resulting in very successful fundraising events, closer ties with the township. People recognize that it's a quaint little town, commented on the park, the community center, directing us back to the waterfront master plan, and then saying that they thought the perception was that it's difficult often to get the two municipalities to work together. Again, the recreation strategy spoke to a couple of facilities in town. The Centennial Park, they said in the end that in partnership with, Almaguin Highlands and community groups, that there is interest in revitalizing the rink boards, considering adding maintenance, other amenities to the site. And then this diagram, I'm going to leave up again while we have a conversation now, direct everybody's attention to what might be some of the possibilities in Dorset. So happy to open it up and have John here, our resident expert, to help guide the conversation too. But what do I need to know about Dorset, what's working, what you'd like to see more and less of?
Nobody's waking up, but I'll
Go ahead, Ed. Yeah,
Ed
go
again.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay. And first of all, I'll apologize that I did not save the article, but I did read an article on ghost towns.
Ghost towns, okay.
Ghost towns in Ontario.
Okay.
And my recollection is that 70 or 80% of the ghost towns in Ontario were split township towns.
Oh.
Where neither party invested enough to support the community. So my thought for Dorset is, why don't we focus on changing the boundaries so that Dorset is either all part of Lake of Bays or all part of Algonquin Highlands? Because my understanding is from Algonquin Highlands is all their investment has moved down to Carnarvon.
Mm.
So, and I just feel that with Lake of Bays, Dorset is kind of a, well, should we invest or not? Because we've got a partner there and whatever. And is it our
Yeah,
asset or
no,
not?
it's
And,
true.
and I just
Okay.
think this is actually one of the
Mhm.
biggest challenges for Dorset. It's a beautiful town, got
Yeah.
a lot of assets, but
And
it has very mixed, boat going by. It
Have
has
you,
mixed leadership, or mixed investment.
John,
a
have you
split personality.
have you worked anywhere where the urban area has been split by two municipalities, by two jurisdictions?
There are some like Lloydminster and so forth. So yeah, it's not a common thing, and it certainly poses unique challenges and
Challenges, yeah.
difficulties. And yeah,
Yeah.
so I think Ed, that's a great idea. It's certainly
Worth
something
some
that's worth exploring. I've
conversation.
always thought, whenever we have visitors we bring to Dorset, they don't understand at all the way the municipalities work or any of that kind of stuff. It's very
Right.
confusing. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great strategic idea.
Yeah, something absolutely. We'll have to have some conversations.
Mhm.
So
With
if
township
if
staff
you get
about-
Graydon Smith involved and really put an initiative together and say, from Highway 35 over is Dorset. and
Okay,
the rest
leave
is-
that with us.
something like that.
Something, yeah.
I'm getting ahead
Okay.
of the game, but something
Yeah.
like that.
Thanks, Ed. Anna, you've got your hand up.
Great, thank you. I think one of the marketing campaign and the signage that the council did over the last few years,
Yeah.
I think really helped integrate all of Lake of Bays, like the 100
Yeah.
lakes to explore and the
Yeah.
standardized signage and stuff really makes us
Yeah.
look like a thing versus
Yeah, I love that. I love
the
new
villages and hamlets. And I
Yeah.
think as we consider the
Yeah.
community improvements for each of these little areas,
Yeah.
how do we think about them in concert with the other villages?
Yeah.
Because I think there's always, oh, Dwight's getting the money, or Dorset's getting the money, or Baysville's getting the money, and poor council can never win. But I
Right.
think there's a real way we could leverage, like they did with the signage and the
Yeah.
mission statement, and then make the whole thing a destination. Like, well,
Right.
what Michael said around cycling the lakes, when we're
Right,
in
right.
Dorset, should there be a sign that, hey, only
Right.
30 kilometers down the road, you can see
Baysville.
art, right? And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
exterior group of 7 artwork and things like that help
Yeah.
to do that. But I think the more we can bridge the whole pieces together,
Yeah, I
it'll be
love
good.
that.
Good
The
idea.
4 hamlets are almost like 4 jewels on a string. So we have to
Mhm.
think of them as absolutely complementary to each other. That's a really interesting idea. Helping shape that vision that you're looking for, Ed. Coming together as we speak. Okay, well, who else wants to share anything about Dorset? I thought we'd hear more about Dorset, John.
Yeah.
I guess Robinson's isn't actually in Dorset, is it? There's Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
No, yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
Just took me a while to find the mute
There
button.
you go. Okay.
Just to something about what Anna just raised was
Yeah.
the idea that, or I think you called it 4 pearls on a string.
Yeah.
It seems like there's one common connective tissue. Maybe there are others, but one that comes to mind is the Lake of Bays Library. Like there may be it seems like there's an opportunity to think about that as the lifeblood of the community. There's a lot of programs, and I don't know if there is a library facility in Dorset or not. I don't think of it that way.
Is there, John? Is
There
a library?
is.
Where is it?
It's just I think north of Robinson's
Oh, actually, let me see. Do I have it on the map?
off Main Street. It's in the community center, right? The
Which is closed.
Which so I guess the question is there a way, whether it's just, maybe my comments less about Dorset alone, but more about the library as a way for the municipal government, the municipal leadership, to communicate with and to listen to and to animate and to
Yeah.
program a
Mhm.
bunch of activities. And you know, I'm pretty sure there's not going to be one in Hillside, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't think so.
But maybe that's a good place to begin. Like what does a library service in Hillside look like? It would be a juicy question to look into. And then what does that say for the library service in a place like Dorset, where it's probably provided by a different region?
Okay. Okay. Thanks for that.
This again gets back to Ed's point about the sort of almost amalgamation or the expansion of Dorset to accommodate sort of the existing library and other facilities.
But maybe there's something more to be said about the cultural value of and the economic value of Pizza on Earth and what's going on. They're nowhere near the boundaries that we're talking about when I look at the map, and yet they're very much in my heart and in my mind when I think about Dorset. So and there's probably a couple of other places just on the outside of that boundary on Harvey Avenue as well.
I didn't hear that. Was that Peace on Earth?
Pizza on Earth, Donna. It's a very
Oh,
popular spot.
yes. Okay. It's
the other
down.
side, east side of Highway 35, just north of
Yeah,
Colin Mackay.
okay.
The owner is a resident of Lake Bay, and she's also a fine artist, and she's a pretty
She's
spectacular
on Shoe Lake.
Okay.
So just not far
raised
away.
her family here.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I
Okay.
have to- It's Ed. I have to admit, we stopped there for the first time last night to have pizza. It was excellent.
There you go. Good.
Fabulous pizza, isn't it? Yeah.
The facility and just the atmosphere was excellent.
Awesome. Okay, Councillor Lacroix, go ahead.
Well, thanks. I just gonna clarify a few things. I've had pizza there before, and it is one heck of a pizza shop. It is a good destination to go. Just on Michael's comment about the library closed a couple of years ago. It was on the Algonquin Highlands side, but it's no longer open at all. And the main reason for that is because the community center's been closed down for 2 years, right? So, Ed's comment about changing the boundaries, of course, maybe Graydon Smith can do something about it since now he's in there, but the province has looked at that over the last few years a couple of times and has never made a change. So doesn't mean it can't happen, but it certainly has been looked at with no success. But the one comment I wanted to make for sure is that I really like Michael and Anna's idea of a cycling destination between Dorset and Baysville. But my idea was to keep them off of 117. There is a beautiful road. If you take Paint Lake Road to Brownsbrae Road, over to Echo Lake Road, and then down Dickey Lake Road.
Yeah.
Beautiful scenic route. In the fall time, that would be absolutely gorgeous because of all the maple trees in there. It is
absolutely gorgeous.
Very lightly traffic. It's not very, until you get to, the I would say Dickey or Echo Lake Bridge into Baysville. That's where the traffic expands. But before that, it's pretty remote, and it would be a beautiful cycling trail, and it's about 20 kilometers, I would say. So it would be a good ride. Now the township would have to look at maybe paving some of that road because a section of it is gravel. And if you wanted cyclists to use it, you'd want it paved.
Okay.
Yeah, I think most of it is gravel, in fact.
Well, Paint Lake Road, about I would say about 5 kilometers is paved, and then of course from all of Dickey Lake is paved, and so is most of Echo Lake Road. So
there's a
I would say half and half. It's about 10 kilometers.
Maybe that's a more accurate.
Okay.
But it would be a really interesting cyclist route.
Just a quick point on that. It's interesting that the north sorry, the south end of that is the old wagon road that goes down eventually to 118. And you know, the province has just announced that the Big Winds land preserve there is going to become a provincial park. So it makes another kind of destination. And thinking of cycling, you could imagine a route down there. And so it becomes sort of an interesting concept.
Yeah, well, there's also the fire access route that the loggers use, which is just past Porcupine Lake and on
Right.
Real Lake, which is
Yeah.
really that road from Real Lake to Highway 118 west or east is in fantastic shape. It's
Yeah.
better than most of
Okay.
our roads.
There's some, an interesting network.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, good idea.
But it,
Anna, did I see your hand up
No,
again?
I was just thumbs upping some ideas.
Okay.
I love the ideas and
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're capturing Stephen's point that they'd be multi-use trails. I think
Yes,
some of
yes.
the distances would be cycling, but I
Yes.
think we have to also think of the off seasons
Yeah.
and pedestrians as well. And the e-bikes are going to become more and more of a thing, right? So,
yes.
and when you look at our
Yes.
demographics and our population with no good knees, they're going to
Yes,
want e-bikes
yes.
as well as traditional
No
cycling.
Excellent point. Yeah.
No good
Yeah.
knees.
Yeah.
That's good.
The six, we had a meeting in Bracebridge last month with a bike association, with RTO 12 and all of the regional economic development officers, and it was all around biking and connecting Muskoka together, multi-use trails, but especially biking. And the biggest and the highest and fastest growing area of biking is gravel roads, gravel biking. It's being done, old rail beds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Councillor LaCroix and several others have mentioned some roads that we've used for 20, 30 years actually to gravel bike on. So that's a big, it's exciting.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing on the screen now are the next steps. So as Stephen mentioned a couple of times, get online and take that initial survey. Keep an eye out, watch out on the Lake of Bays Community Improvement Plan web page, because as I said, Township is doing a great job populating that with information. Speak to staff, wander into the municipal office and share your ideas, and then keep a watch out for our next session. And I take the point about an interest in having in-person events for the next time. And I know our township staff team have been listening to all this intently as well. So I really do appreciate everybody carving out an hour and a half to share some thoughts. We've recorded the presentation. It will be posted online, so you can listen to it with your friends and neighbors and really want to share some ideas. And we'll also post as a standalone deck the presentations that we've used. So you've got lots of resources to have some conversations in the community. So I will end the meeting. Stephen or April, do you want to say anything in closing just before I wrap up the meeting on everyone's behalf?
This is the beginning. Make sure there's some very vocal people involved in this group, and I want to make sure that you use your voice to get more people online, get the surveys. The more information that we can feed into Donna and John and ourselves is the better we're going to be able to deliver the result that maybe you haven't seen in the past and work towards a better future. We need to hear from you.
Awesome.
And that means telling everybody.
Yeah, echoing.
And thank you very much.
Echoing Stephen for sure. Thank you so much. And yeah, definitely, we're here to listen to your input, and I really appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, April and Stephen.
Donna and John, excellent job.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. So I will
Thanks all.
stopping the recording.
Okay.